It really makes sense what you're saying about like the volatility and ambiguity
Mhm.
and it goes like it's a different direction, but it always in my mind. I have 4 kids, and I always say, what would they know? What they need to know when they grow up, when they'll be like grown ups. And I always come to the same
Good.
conclusion that what they need is to learn change. They need to know how to work in change, like emotionally, in their career, in their like
Right.
general life. And it seems that we don't know enough in order to teach that, which is so important.
I think you're right, Addie. I mean, I don't think that this is something that they're learning. Um, they don't learn it in school. I mean, but I think that's changing. I think I'm seeing emotional intelligence is in the syllabus now. It's in,
Hmm.
the curriculum in different ways. They're educating teachers on that to be able to help children. And I think, of course, at home, the more aware we are, and that of course is key. I love the way you're looking at that. I really do, and it makes me think, how do I work with this with my kids? Because that's the disappointment, and whether it blocks them or whether they're able to keep going. And that's what
Yeah.
we see with organizations. It's the same thing. And
Yeah.
so the organizations are like the big kids who don't know what to do.
Yeah, these kids grow and then they become leaders. And
Right.
as a leader, you need to adjust to change as much. And if surely when the world is changing so fast, you need to be aware that this is a capability of,
Mhm.
yeah, this is what I thought till now. This is what I knew till now. And I'm doing it just perfectly. But I need to do something else. But it's not enough.
And that I work, that's really the difference at this point between a manager, a sort of old school manager or boss, and a leader fit for these times. And, you know, the sort of manager person bases what they will do always on what they've always done. And I think somebody who is really leading towards the future, for innovation, is willing to sit with that discomfort, accept the change. So there's the whole aspect of, first you have to accept it, the volatility or the up and down, and will not necessarily have the answers, but will find a way to find them, which often means, I don't have the answers, bringing the team together. What are we going to do? What are
Yeah.
we going to do? And those are the companies that were able to grow. And I think last week, I interviewed the chief product officer of Athleta, which is owned by Gap, and one of the biggest, earning Gap companies. And in fact, I loved what she said about innovation and being able to do that turnaround. They got together and they found the people who would be good at this. And by May 1st, or the first bit of May last year, they already had a line of masks out for their clients, for the customer base. They already had that out because they were able to not freeze and say, oh, nobody's shopping, but rather, what can we do in this to serve? What's the need? They thought of themselves in that way. And they also brought out a sleep line. I mean, those are amazing stories.
Right, right. And what you just mentioned is that the fact that there are so new open unmet needs out there, and there are so many gaps you could fill with your capabilities if you're
Right.
seeing that, if you're
Right.
aware of the potential of the opportunities out there.
Mhm.
And most companies are just freezing because something changed. It's not as before in many cases, and
Mhm.
they're not doing it, although they
Mhm.
can. Like if they
They
were
could.
open-minded, they could do it. Sure.
Mhm. I saw it a lot here. Just one more kind of fun example for me was, there was a restaurant cafe here where I live, and they were closed for so long, the restaurants, and the restaurants business has suffered so greatly. And one day I walked by and they had these really cute, very attractive red and white awnings that they'd put out over a window, put a crepe machine out, and started selling sandwiches, crepes, brought their espresso machine and cinnamon rolls. So it was a walk-up window. And they were innovating. They were saying, okay, well, we cannot serve the meals and the cocktails like we usually do. Now we need to And
Yeah.
kids go there after school now
Yeah,
to pick up a
that's a
crook.
fun story.
Yeah.
I would go now if I wouldn't be on dieting. I would go.
I took the kids. It was really fun.
We just need to mention that although you have a very perfect American accent, you're in Barcelona right now, so we
Right.
didn't mention that. And Spain in general was really affected by
Really
COVID-19.
affected. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. So I'm originally from Chicago, which thus the accent. But
perfect
I've been
one.
living in Barcelona for almost 14 years.
Wow. So
Mhm.
tell us about the difference in the way that people are thinking, and the leaders that you talk to, is like how different they are.
So I'm in a different role, total transparency. I do very different things professionally here now, but in terms of than I did in the United States. So my worlds are a little bit different, but in terms of cultural differences, and you and I have spoken a little bit about this, I think the way that people show up and are able to, I mean, it goes a little bit to the hierarchy thing, I think. I think in general, what we'd say the old school Spanish, many of those companies and those are very hierarchical. And as you would see if in the culture map, for example, they talk about the fact that when you have a very strong religion, like Catholicism is a very hierarchical religion. When you have a monarchy, that's typically very hierarchical. So you end up, that filters all the way through a society. And I think that impacts how leaders lead very much, much more authoritarian, much more leader knows top down. I also think it shows up in the way people interview for jobs, for example. I think they're not necessarily taught from culturally to be able to promote themselves. So I've had to help people be able to promote themselves in a way that doesn't feel uncomfortable, because I think even as Americans, we were taught we don't brag. You can't brag. You can't be arrogant. But we were taught that if you go to a job interview, you need to be able to say what you do well and feel confident about it and demonstrate a certain level of confidence. And so I've done a lot of work around demonstrating confidence and creating confidence in themselves, both men and women coming to me in leadership positions saying, I feel like I need to feel more confident, because they know the impact is very different when you show confidence and humility, the combination.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I've noticed that those kinds of differences, for
Yeah.
example.